The Treasury Department just confirmed it. Starting in 2026, SSI and SSDI payment dates are getting a major overhaul. For the nearly 17 million Americans who rely on these benefits, that's not just a footnote. It's a financial earthquake. Right now, SSI hits bank accounts on the first of the month.
Backhand index pointing right. If this information helped you, don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're always one step ahead. We break down important updates like this clearly so you're never caught off guard. Join our community, stay informed, and take control of your financial future, starting today. Flexed Biceps Calendar.
Unless that date collides with a weekend or holiday. SSDI. A logistical mess based on birth dates, creating chaos for people trying to track when rent, bills, or food money will actually show up. This patchwork system has led to overdrafts, late fees, and budgeting nightmares. That's what the new standardized calendar is aiming to fix. Mark those words. Predictable, fixed payment dates. The Treasury says no more guessing games. For SSI recipients, elderly individuals, disabled adults, low-income children, the plan is to set a specific, non-negotiable payday every month. No more early deposits. No more shifting dates that leave people scrambling. SSDI recipients, millions of injured workers, veterans, and chronically ill Americans, will still follow the birth date system, but with new rules to keep payments consistent, even around holidays. It's a systemic reset that promises to take some of the edge off an already brutal reality, surviving on a fixed income in an unpredictable economy. This isn't just a policy tweak. It's a logistical transformation affecting millions of lives. But it won't be seamless. The shift requires every recipient to update banking details, double-check contact info, and brace for a bumpy 2026 rollout. The government's offering 90-day notices and an annual calendar to prep people. But one wrong address, one outdated bank account, and you're stuck in bureaucratic limbo. And let's not pretend this fixes everything. Monthly benefit amounts are still too low, inflation's still punching people in the gut, and affordable housing is a myth for many of these recipients. Still, it's a rare moment where policy meets practicality. Improving direct deposits, reducing the dependence on slow and error-prone paper checks, and acknowledging the emotional toll of living with instability. That's not nothing. This is about giving people back some control. Control over when the money comes in, how it's planned, and how much stress is avoided. For people who already budget down to the penny, even one predictable change is a lifeline. The Treasury Department has confirmed a major change that will directly impact the lives of nearly 17 million Americans who rely on SSI and SSDI to survive each month. After decades of complaints, anxiety, and financial whiplash caused by erratic payment schedules, the government is finally stepping in to do something about it. And it's about time. Starting in early 2026, the Treasury will implement a standardized payment schedule for Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, while also improving consistency for Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI, recipients. These changes aim to fix a broken system that's caused unnecessary hardship for some of the most vulnerable people in the country. Seniors, disabled adults, children, veterans, and individuals barely scraping by on limited incomes. Currently, SSI payments are deposited on the first of every month, unless that day falls on a weekend or federal holiday. In those cases, payments are issued early, which sounds helpful but ends up causing more confusion than clarity. Some months, people receive their money days ahead of time, and then have to stretch those funds over longer periods. For those living paycheck to paycheck, that's a budgeting nightmare. It gets even worse for SSDI recipients. Their payments are tied to their birthdays, but not directly. Instead, the payment date depends on which third of the month their birthday falls in, meaning some receive checks on the second Wednesday, others on the third, and some on the fourth. Throw in holidays and weekends, and what you get is a maze of shifting dates. It's a system that offers no consistency and no predictability. Just added stress for people already burdened by medical conditions, disabilities, and financial insecurity. The Treasury says enough is enough. Beginning in 2026, SSI recipients will receive their payments on the same date every month, regardless of weekends or holidays. SSDI recipients will still follow the birthday-based schedule, But with a new twist, payments will be adjusted to avoid delays caused by holidays, giving recipients more consistency month to month. That alone is a game changer. Let's be clear, this isn't a flashy reform. It's not a benefit increase. It's not a policy overhaul. But it is a recognition of a daily struggle that most politicians ignore. The stress of not knowing exactly when your money is coming in. When your income is fixed and every dollar counts, that unpredictability becomes a constant source of anxiety. Late fees, overdraft charges, missed rent deadlines. These aren't small inconveniences. They're financial crises. And now, at the very least, there's a plan in place to ease that burden. But let's not sugarcoat the transition. It won't be seamless. Moving nearly 17 million people to a new schedule, while also upgrading payment systems, calendars, and notifications, is going to cause disruption. Some months in 2026 might be messy. There may be irregularities during the rollout. There could be issues with automatic payments. For some, payments might shift earlier or later than expected as the new schedule takes effect. And that could throw off rent, bills, or even basic grocery trips. That's why it's critical that beneficiaries take action now to get ready. The government has committed to sending out notices at least 90 days before any change is made to an individual's payment schedule. They'll also be releasing a 12-month payment calendar in advance to help recipients budget and plan. That's helpful, but only if people are prepared to receive that information. If your contact details or banking info are out of date, you might miss a critical notice. If you haven't set up your online Social Security account, you may not see the new calendar or alerts. So step 1 is simple but essential. Make sure your contact information is current. Update your address, phone number, and email. Check your bank account details to ensure direct deposit works without a hitch. If you don't have direct deposit, now is the time to set it up. The government is also working to improve the direct deposit system to reduce delays and wean off paper checks, which are slower and more prone to issues. That move alone could prevent late payments for people who depend on physical checks today. For those who rely on automatic payments like rent, utilities, or loan payments, this change could impact your financial flow. If a payment that usually hits on the 1st now comes a few days later, that delay could trigger overdraft fees or late charges. That's why planning ahead is so important. Review your budget. Look at your fixed costs. Understand how a shift in timing might affect your obligations. And take steps now to cushion the blow. This shift affects 8 million SSI recipients and 9 million SSDI recipients. That's almost 17 million people who are often overlooked in policy conversations, but who form the backbone of the neediest parts of our economy. People with disabilities. People living with chronic illness. Seniors living alone. Veterans who sacrificed for this country. Children born into poverty. These are the people the current system has failed over and over again with chaotic schedules and outdated bureaucracy. The good news is, this time, the government seems to understand the stakes. They're treating the change seriously, rolling it out carefully over the course of 2026, and committing to transparency through early notices and accessible calendars. They're making the process digital and modern, trying to improve the overall reliability of payments. It's not revolutionary, but it's real progress, and it matters. But again, no change of this scale is painless. There will be bumps in the road. Some people may be confused. Some may panic if their payments don't show up when they expect them. That's why community support, clear communication, and personal preparation are key. If you know someone who gets SSI or SSDI, check in on them. Help them verify their information. Share updates. Guide them to resources like the 211 hotline for local aid, or veterans assistance programs. And if you're one of the 17 million affected, know this. You are not alone. Your struggles are valid. Your patience is appreciated. And your resilience is seen. Living on a fixed income in this economy is brutal. Rent is high. Food costs more every month. Gas, medication, insurance, it all adds up. This change won't solve those bigger problems, but it will take one small piece of chaos off your plate. By standardizing SSI payment dates and making SSDI payouts more predictable, the Treasury is taking a step, finally, toward a system that respects the dignity of its recipients. It doesn't erase decades of neglect, doesn't increase benefit levels, but it signals that someone is paying attention, that the people who built this country, protected it, and endured its hardest blows deserve more than guesswork when it comes to their lifeline income. So here's what you can do right now. Check your contact details with Social Security. Set up your online SSA account if you haven't already. Verify your direct deposit information. Start adjusting your budget to anticipate new dates. Talk to your landlord, your bank, or your service providers if a shift in payments might affect you. Stay informed. Watch for the 90-day notices and the official 12-month calendar. And don't hesitate to ask for help. Use 211 for local aid. Contact Veterans Services if you qualify. Reach out to community support networks. You don't have to go through this change alone. Finally, make your voice heard. Share your experience. Leave a comment with your thoughts or concerns. If this change will help you or hurt you, let others know. The more we speak up, the more pressure there is on our leaders to listen, improve, and act. Subscribe to this channel for ongoing updates. We'll be breaking down every step of the rollout, sharing the latest details, and offering practical advice to help you navigate the months ahead. You've dealt with enough surprises. It's time for stability. Let's make sure the system delivers. We left off with the facts, and they are big facts. Nearly 17 million people. One of the most vulnerable, financially squeezed groups in the country. Finally, some relief is coming in 2026, and it's coming straight from the top. The Treasury Department, in coordination with Social Security. Now let's talk about what this really means. Because unless you've lived on SSI or SSDI, it's hard to grasp the level of stress this kind of instability causes. You've got bills that don't care what day it is. Rent due on the 1st, utilities sometime mid-month, prescriptions that don't wait, groceries that vanish from your fridge long before the next deposit hits. And meanwhile, your check might show up on the 1st or the 31st. Or maybe it comes 3 days early because the 1st is a holiday. Or 5 days late because of a weekend. Or the mail is delayed. Or the bank flags your deposit. Or worst case, it doesn't show up at all and you spend hours on hold just to be told, wait a few more days. That's not just frustrating. That's dangerous. When you're living on $943 a month, or sometimes less, that unpredictability doesn't just mess with your plans. It wrecks your survival strategy. You don't get to move money around or dip into savings. Most SSI and SSDI recipients don't have savings. They're legally required to stay under asset limits. $2,000 for an individual, just to qualify for benefits in the first place. That's right. If you save too much, even for an emergency, they can cut you off. So you live check to check. Every penny is pre-spent before it even hits your account. A single late payment can lead to eviction, hunger, or skipped meds. That's the reality the Treasury says it's trying to fix. By setting a fixed date for SSI, no more calendar roulette, the government is offering something people on fixed incomes rarely get: predictability. No more scrambling to remember if your check is coming early because the 1st is on a Sunday. No more gaps between checks that stretch longer than they should. Just a consistent, reliable deposit date you can count on, month after month. And for SSDI, the birthday-based schedule stays, but with smoother edges. Right now, if your birthday puts your payment on the 3rd Wednesday of the month, and that day happens to fall on a federal holiday, tough luck. Your deposit gets bumped, sometimes to a day earlier, sometimes to later. No warning, no consistency. With the new system, the Treasury says it will build in safeguards so that your payment doesn't shift unpredictably. No more guessing games. No more surprise delays. This isn't revolutionary policy. But for people who rely on these programs, it's transformational. It brings a level of financial stability that should have been baked into the system decades ago. And let's be honest, this is long overdue. How many stories have we heard from seniors who missed their rent because their SSI came early one month and they didn't budget far enough out? How many disabled veterans got slammed with overdraft fees because their SSDI arrived late thanks to a banking holiday they didn't even know existed? How many parents of disabled children spent entire weekends refreshing their bank apps, hoping the payment would post? These aren't anecdotes. They're the everyday reality for millions. Now, with the new system set to roll out in 2026, there's finally a light at the end of the tunnel. But to get there, people need to be prepared. And that part matters just as much as the policy change itself. Because this isn't just a flip of a switch. This is a massive transition across the entire Social Security payment infrastructure. The Treasury is clear. There will be a phased implementation. That means some people might get switched over early. Others may have to wait several months. There could be miscommunications. There could be errors. That's not fear-mongering. That's how system-wide changes play out. Especially when they involve millions of people across all 50 states and territories, different banks, mailing systems, and support programs. That's why the advice is simple. Prepare now. First, log into your SSA account or create one, because this will be your lifeline during the transition. This is where your new payment schedule will show up. It's where you'll receive alerts, messages, and the official 12-month calendar that tells you exactly when your money will hit your account. If you're not set up digitally, you risk being left out of the loop. Next, double-check your direct deposit info. And if you don't use direct deposit yet, make the switch. Paper checks are getting phased out. They're slower, they get lost, and in this transition, they're the most likely to hit snags. The Treasury says it's improving the direct deposit system to make it faster, more secure, and more reliable. That means less waiting, fewer delays, and one less thing to worry about. Then there's your contact info. If the SSA can't reach you, they can't send you the 90-day notice before your payment date changes. That notice is your warning. It's your chance to get ahead of the curve. So make sure your phone number, email, and mailing address are all current. And don't wait until 2026. Start budgeting now with the expectation that your payment date may shift. Ask yourself, if my check comes a few days later 1 month, what bills will that affect? Are any of my automatic payments scheduled too close to my deposit date? Could a delay cause a chain reaction? Take time now to get out in front of those questions, while you still have time to adapt. This isn't about panic. It's about power. About taking control of what you can control, even when the system has too often made people feel powerless. And look, no one's pretending this solves everything. SSI benefits are still painfully low. SSDI applications still take months, or years, to process. Millions still live well below the poverty line despite receiving government assistance. And yes, many of these changes could have and should have happened long ago. But this new standardized payment schedule, it's a crack in the wall. It's proof that voices are being heard. That people who've spent years dealing with the stress of inconsistent checks are finally getting a system that works for them, not against them. It's also a reminder of just how important it is to stay informed, to share information with others, to make sure no one falls through the cracks just because they didn't get the memo. Because let's face it, this kind of change only works if people know it's happening. And millions of recipients may never hear about it if we don't talk about it. So here's what you can do. Talk about this with your family, with your neighbors, with anyone you know on SSI or SSDI. Ask them if they've updated their SSA account, if they've seen the upcoming calendar, if they know the change is coming. Because a missed check isn't just a missed check, it's missed rent, missed groceries, missed meds. This is a big shift. Not flashy, not headline-grabbing, but real. And it touches the lives of millions who don't get a lot of wins. Let's make sure that every person affected by this change walks into 2026 informed, prepared, and supported. You've made it this far because this matters to you, or to someone you love. And here's the truth. These next few months are going to set the stage for how the next decade plays out for millions of people who rely on SSI and SSDI. The government is making a move, a long overdue one, to fix a system that never should have been this confusing to begin with. They're trying to give people predictability, consistency, and a shred of financial peace in a country that makes surviving on benefits a constant uphill battle. But this change will only help if people know it's coming, if they're ready for it, if they understand what's at stake. Because here's the risk. People will hear a rumor, ignore it, or think it doesn't apply to them. And then one day, their money doesn't show up when they expected it. Rent is due. Bills are waiting. The fridge is empty. And the stress hits hard. That's why talking about this now, loudly, clearly, and relentlessly, isn't just helpful. It's essential. If you've updated your info, made your online SSA account, checked your direct deposit, and looked at your budget, you're ahead of the curve. But don't stop there. Ask your parents if they've heard about the change. Check in with your neighbor who gets SSI. Talk to the veteran down the hall. Help someone set up their account or update their details if they're not tech-savvy. These little actions could be the reason someone stays afloat when the rollout hits. We need to be louder than the silence this change is wrapped in. Because you know what won't happen. A massive media campaign. You won't see nightly news features on this. You won't see billboards or Facebook ads warning people to prepare. For millions, the only notice they'll get is a letter. Maybe 3 months before the change. That's not enough. So be the voice that cuts through the noise. Share this video. Talk about it. There are parents on disability trying to raise kids in this broken economy. There are seniors choosing between heat and food. There are disabled workers struggling to stretch every cent of their SSDI check until the next one lands. This isn't abstract. This is real life. And yes, it's frustrating that this is what counts as progress. Fixing a schedule. Making payments predictable. That should have been a baseline feature of the system, not a future improvement. But here we are. And if we don't lean in and help each other prepare, the people who always get left behind will be left behind again. This is your moment to stay ahead. Subscribe because updates are coming and they're going to affect real people in real ways. Leave a comment. Let others know what you're doing to get ready. Start a conversation. And above all else, stay alert. Because when the checks start arriving on new dates, you'll be the one who's not just ready, but who helped others get ready too.